We need it. Oxygen. It's why we breathe.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. We've got Small Biz Buffet here, and I'm really excited. Eric Vincent is the founder of Black Ink Creative Partners. And you're thinking, well, okay, so that's interesting. He does things that are creative. Good, you got that. Partners, he enables people. That's good. But bigger picture, he has an event called ProcurementCon, which is where I met Eric a year ago. And the kinds of things that he's doing to not only bring information to vendors to figure out, yeah, how do I crack this nut called procurement? Because let's face it, compared to all of the other business operations, it's the grand mystery, right? What is procurement? Who are those people? What exactly do they do? Like no one freaking knows. So we've got Eric here on the show to enlighten us and tell us about all the good stuff you're doing. Hey, Eric, welcome to the show.
Hey, Dr. Mears, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. So tell our audience a little bit more about who you are and what you're good at.
So who I am, my name is Eric Vincent. I am the founder of Black Ink Creative Partners. We are a creative strategies and brand development agency, heavily focused in the government sector, the procurement sector. And the reason we do that, just to be clear, is because not everybody's ready for us. And we say that because there's just some people, their mindsets, unfortunately, are not ready to say, I want to be the next Pepsi, Starbucks. I want to be that, to put the work in. They have to be there before they get into business with us. I won't say we're not cheap, but I'm not going to say we are cheap. You know, there's a cost involved for what we do. And that's really what fuels the ProcurementCon brand, right? So that's the other brand we launched a few years ago. I'd say we're in our junior year, but the reality is that brand awareness and credibility, we're in our sophomore year of operation. What do I do? I mean, I don't know what I do, to be honest with you. I'm an entrepreneur. What I
You do a
do
lot of
is
things.
I do a lot of things. I think if there's anything that I'm good at, it's connecting the dots. And I know that's really sort of just this weird, vague way of saying, you know, I make it happen. I see a business, I see two unrelated businesses, I see five unrelated businesses, I see 10, and somehow, like in my mind's eye, if I know enough about them, I see how they can work together and collaborate and benefit from each other to expand the mission. And see, that's sort of how we built the whole Black Ink ProcurementCon brand. Is I developed an ecosystem, and it's slightly a closed ecosystem of what I feel are some of the best valued people and professionals and companies to work together and work with each other. It's not just a collaboration. It's literally just like this little, ecosystem. You know what I mean? It's in its own little bubble, even though we're open to other people. And that's really what I do, because quite honestly, I'm not an expert at any one thing, I don't think. Um, I'm a risk taker, you know. I mean, that's what I do.
Well, hence the path to entrepreneurship, right? Like there's a couple of things in there that I just want to touch on. If you were not a risk taker and you were a jack of one trade, you'd be in a job, right? But you're not. You're an entrepreneur. And if you're like the 30%, actually just over a third of those of us in entrepreneurship, you may have ADHD, right? Because we see lots of different things. We get attracted to different things. We don't want to be stuck in any single lane. But for those of us that can figure it out, we can see, where the dots are and like the avatars, right? Like we can
Yeah,
swirl
exactly.
everything
That's
together
what
so
that's
that all the dots start
you're
moving,
nailing it.
right?
Yeah.
See, I knew we needed to talk. Okay, so you not only, like I said, do Procurement Con, but you're providing levels of education, tips, support for small businesses, creating these ecosystems, these communities that we all crave to be a part of. So you see a lot of stuff. So my next question is, what are you seeing out there in the land of small businesses, right? Like, what are they getting right? What are they getting wrong? What's trending? Those kind of questions.
Hey, let's hit the trend spot right now, because I
Okay.
think what's trending is trendiness. That's literally what's trending.
Yeah.
Because here's the reality of it, and I know this is probably a question further down the line, but what's trending right now? What's trending right now is trendiness. What's trending right now is I want to be white noise, right? So good example is we are fed a lot of media from our screens, our phones. People are on their phones. Social media is probably, if it's not, to me, if from my perspective, it's not, if it's not bigger than OTT, over the top advertising, I'd be surprised. I think it is. But we're constantly in that scroll. And the thing about that is, if you really observe the human behavior, remember, I think it was about 5 years ago, YouTube did a study
Mhm.
that said you will have up to 6 seconds to grab somebody's attention. That's it. Right. And why is that? You have to ask why that is. Because everything is noise. It's not that
Yes.
it's not interesting, it's noise. Everything looks the same, everything is the same. It's like that song on the radio they play 500 times to get it out there. Eventually, you no longer hear it when it comes on, right? You get past that. So I think that's really the landscape right now is what are people doing wrong? People are following the trend because it's the path of least resistance to try to get audience numbers. And audience numbers don't amount to, it's brand loyalty and brand advocacy. So, you can have 1 million followers. How many of those? And again, at that point, maybe it's a numbers game. Maybe you're making a living
Yeah.
because they're hitting the button to buy, right? But to the person who's striving for 20,000 followers, how many of those are actually loyal advocates who want what you have? Trendiness is the big trend right now. As far as what people are doing wrong, that's one of the things they're doing wrong. And again, I get the low hanging fruit when you're a CEO or a business owner and you're wearing 17 different hats as a business owner. You have to kind of go after low hanging fruit, easy path stuff. That's absolutely every business owner does that. It's getting stuck in that. I think that's really like what people are doing wrong right now because they become their own worst enemy by stagnating.
Mhm.
Um, what are they getting right? So I think the people, the business owners and entrepreneurs that have a strategy and not just a strategy, tactics, right?
Mhm.
So let me see if I remember this. I can't really remember it from memory too well, but tactics without strategy is the road before defeat, and strategy without tactics is the slowest route to victory. That's tattooed on my arm. Um,
Wow. Yep.
and you have to have both, and that's a quote from Sun Tzu. And
Mhm.
it's
The art of
true,
war.
right? So the people that have strategies and the tactics to implement those strategies, even if they're written on a napkin, they could be standing in their shower every morning and running through it, even if it's in their brain that way, right? Those people who are capable of having that and also capable of pivoting on a dime with the plan A, B, and C, D, E, F, and G, they
XYZ. Yeah.
they're doing the right. And again, I'm not telling, I mean, we all hear the business thing. Oh, you should have this business plan, and yes, you should, and should have a marketing plan, and yes, you should, and should have a budget strategy. Yes, you should. Those aren't absolute rules. Those are there to give you guidance. You need to have the rest of that stuff building off of that and be able to pivot, even if it goes against your original strategy. You have to have the ABC. So those folks are doing it right. Again, I think the people that are doing it wrong are the trendies. They're following the trend. They're doing the same. Every video looks the same because you hear it,
Yes.
right? You hear it.
Right.
What makes you stand out? I mean, I watch YouTube videos all the time, right? I love YouTube. Um, Plug for YouTube. Um, and I watch. Okay, this is my little
Your
thing.
soapbox.
I watch a lot of like Bigfoot and ghost hunting videos and all that stuff. But it's a good space to say like everybody wants to be a ghost hunter, right? It's the big paranormal thing. It's a big thing. Everybody wants to be a ghost hunter. Everybody wants to be this. Everybody. And they're not. What makes the one person stand out that keeps you tuning in? And they're doing something different. So I think, what everybody's doing wrong is really being that what's the trend and following it.
Oh yeah, there's so much I want to say, but because this podcast is about you and not me, this is exactly it. We've all descended towards this land of sameness. And you described it correctly that it is all about white noise. And how do you filter it out? It's this, it's that. What's every small business owner doing? They're all frenetic. I got to post on Instagram. I got to post on YouTube. I got to have my podcast. I've got to have this. I've got to write a book. Oh my God, I've got to be on Facebook and I've got to be in LinkedIn groups. And now Alignable's there, and Blue Sky. And I've got to do this and I've got to do that. Like, just losing their freaking minds. You can't be everywhere and be all these things and do it all at the same time, because you've got to generate revenues. And to generate revenues, you've got to generate leads. And by spreading yourself like peanut butter so thin across the entire toast of outreach, you're not
Yeah.
going to make it. I've tried it.
Well, I mean, I think people
It doesn't
come,
work.
I think people, just to jump on that social media space, I think people eventually come to find out which platform works best for them, right?
That's right.
And our attitude with that is we've posted on pretty much every platform, but we've landed on the ones we like the best and we feel give us the best reach. But that doesn't mean we shut down those other platforms. We want to own our name on those platforms. So we'll post a video every now and then. We're not worried about the details too much. Oh, so what if we're shadow banned? Big deal. You know what I mean? And we're shadow banned.
Everybody is these days. Just
right.
like everybody's now stuck into promotions on Gmail, but we'll come back to that.
Oh, that one, yeah. So, I mean, everybody faces those same things, but again, it's the stagnation and the trendiness and the stagnation. And if they stagnate into that same space without making a move, that's where they're doing it wrong. And we can go through the numerous wrongs a small business does because we've done it as entrepreneurs. And I'm gonna be really, really upfront here. I suck. I make a lot of mistakes, a lot, and I have to pivot instantly, right, on those mistakes. And that's the bottom line. And if you can admit you suck, you're on a good track to making changes.
100%, right? I'm going to give it like lots of things there, because that is just it. If you don't have either the self-awareness at the level of you're doing things or exhibiting some behaviors that be optimized so that you can be a better networker or be better in your relationships, personal or intimate and professional relationships, whatever level. And if you don't look at your business with that objectivity lens and go, oh, is that broken? And you skip past it and go, yeah, I'll deal with it tomorrow. You're toast, just toast. All right.
Yeah. And it's funny because it's that lens, right? So I am the brand, right? I represent the brand, right? And my personality is the brand at the end of the day. It's the voice and everything. And I do have to tone me down for the brand a little bit. There's a certain degree of, you could say professional public consumption that I've got to dial Eric back a little bit, but I'm not going to change the brand. But here's the thing. I have more often than not have to pull myself back and go, whoa, I'm getting too conformist. My brand is getting too conformist. And I have to say, whoa, it's losing its voice. I have to sort of find that space to keep there. And so I think that introspection is really important to have it. You know what I mean? And to be able to really, because you are your brand at the end of the day.
Right. And so on that path of learning and being introspective and reflective and pivoting and being responsive, right, to things that are changing, either economic drivers or whatnot, excuse me, I'm sure you've learned, 1 or 200 skills along the way, right? What is the most valuable skill you think that you've developed as a business owner? What is that, Eric?
I thought about this question long and hard this morning, right? And I was really digging in, and I don't know that I learned any one valuable skill from business, as a skill set, right? Personally, is this skill set that I can apply. I think, and I don't want to use the word authenticity because authenticity is just a shitty buzzword now because people don't even know what authenticity anymore is. What I tend to say is I do me and I do me well. All right. I am me. And if somebody doesn't like it, oh well, is what it is, and You don't like it? Don't hang out. I mean, there was that old adage. You remember Howard Stern? Some people, I don't know if your listeners all remember
Yeah,
Howard
yeah,
Stern back in the
of course.
day when he was a groundbreaking disruptor. Everybody, FCC was on his ass. Everybody was going after him. And there was one simple thing: you can turn the dial. It was that simple. You don't have to listen. And that was the thing. And that's the thing. If you don't, I do me well. And if you don't like me, not my problem.
Move on.
You could beat that out.
Exactly. No, it's okay. I think YouTube, allows a little bit of grace, but we'll go on with this. And so one of the things I think that's really important as we're looking at our path is that we say, okay, what's our definition of success? Just as it changes as we enter different decades of our life on that personal level, what is success defined as, right? It might be finding an intimate partner, starting a family, launching your kid, doing, whatever, starting that business, doing the dream, running the marathon, whatever, right? It changes. And so, where are you now with respect to how you are defining success for ProcurementCon and Black Ink Creative Partners? How has that shifted?
Sure. So, in my youth, success was, oh my God, I want the big house and I want to live on the ocean, or I want that was that 18-year-old, 16-year-old, like, oh my God, I want to be rich. You know what I mean? And for a period of time, it was that was the goal, right? Striving for the dollar. That was the goal. What shifted was when I realized that the dollars will always be there if I just work at my brand,
Mhm.
at it, right? And so, that was the first thing, was success was became achieving the goal we set out to do. I set out to do, and then moving on to the next goal, right? And I have a whole mental thing with goals, right? So that's a whole nother story how I view goals. Um, Today, now, I launched Black Ink in 2013, and we launched ProcurementCon just before the pandemic, but we
Nice
came out
timing.
the other. Yeah, great timing. I was on it. um, I think today, now, my vision of a personal success is really related to the business. ProcurementCon has a goal. The ProcurementCon brand has a goal. I set up an 8-year strategy. So we're technically in year 3 of it, but we'll say year 2 because, again, awareness and all that. So in the next 6 years, 5 to 6 years, we want to be a national brand, and all our sub brands under that. We're shooting nationally. We have a whole strategy for that. And that to me is success, meeting that goal, right? Meeting that end goal. Black Ink, there's some things we're sort of, we came out the other end of the pandemic. A lot of our government contracting stuff dialed back, and we ended up
Mhm.
focusing a lot on ProcurementCon. So now our goal is to bring back our government contracting side strong. So that's success, right? It's goals, it's milestones. If there's an overarching goal, it's there. I want to have 4 apartments in 4 cities, even if I just rent them, that I really love, where I operate the brands out of as hubs, so I can go there every quarter and chill in my city that I love so much. Like, that's my goal. It's not a fast car. It's not a rented Lamborghini or some sponsored jewelry on YouTube. Isn't any of that. It's none of that. It's achieving each goal along the way because it has impact on me personally, right?
That's what it's about. So,
Mhm.
that said, if you could go back now to the day that you started Black Ink Creative Partners, or even the day they started Procurement Con, what message would you send to yourself? You say, Dear Eric, remember this in the future, blah, blah.
Oh, you're being nice, dear Eric. I'd find young Eric, I'd punch him in the face, and I'd say, get therapy now. Because if you don't deal with your life's trauma
Yeah.
and learn how to cope with problems better, it's going to impact your future business, because you're going to
Yeah.
cope with problems the same way. That's what I would honestly do. It wouldn't be, oh, invest this way or learn from that buddy. I'd punch me in the face and I'd be like, hey, stupid. Don't think you don't need therapy. Go fix your trauma, because you handled horribly in those early stages with your crappy attitude. You know what I mean? And that would be it. You got to handle, because the life skills we bring forward from our youth, our coping skills and all that stuff, if we're going to be entrepreneurs, because being an entrepreneur, it's easier to work a 9 to 5 job.
Oh, for sure. You just show up. It's a
Yeah.
job.
right? But being an entrepreneur, you are now taking everything that, because remember, life is trying to kill you, really,
It
at the
is.
end of the
Yeah.
day. You're taking
Does it a little
everything,
every
and
day.
your
Yeah.
business world now is amplified because now you're basically on a mission of not just like my mental survival, life survival. Now you're in like my entire existence survival is centered on
Mhm.
this risk I'm going to take. So you need to have coping skills. You need to have better perspective. You need to, and your life's trauma will impact the way you handle things. So that's why I don't even say it as a joke.
No, mental health is no joke. And you are spot on because I look around, I've done a lot of workforce development with interns, young folks, Gen Z specifically, and OMG. There is no resilience. There are no coping skills. There is no adaptability. It's like, are you kidding me? And then they say, yeah, I want to be an entrepreneur or I want to be the CEO. I'm like, wait a minute. Wait, my two check marks are A, to qualify you for entrepreneurship. Are you going to embrace radical optimism? You're like, well, what does that mean? It's like, can you wake up every day and slog through the same shite over and over again? Because that's what it's going to take. They're like, well, I don't know. Isn't it success from day one? Right. And number two, I say the other thing that you need to do is ruthless prioritization. Because as an entrepreneur, everything is on fire every day, all the time. And you need to focus on the inferno that's about to singe your face off, not the smoldering shit that's in the back corner. You let that go. That may be easy to fix, but you got
Yeah.
to let it go. You got to fix the inferno, right?
Yeah, no, so true. So true. I mean, really, listen, I don't want to get down the rabbit hole of the generations, but let's be real here. Boomers, man, they would just trudge through this through the fire to put it out. Gen Xers really didn't give a
Barefoot.
care. Yeah, barefoot. Gen Xers were just like, hell, let's just jump off it, And then you have the millennial set, which is sort of like, okay, you know,
I don't deserve this
shouldn't
fire.
we need little safe spaces. Let's have a conversation. I think the millennial set's really well balanced, to be honest with you. But the
Yes,
generation that was like, here's too many safe spaces. Here's the award for showing up. Oh, your
right.
dog peed on the floor. We understand you don't have to come to work today. That group, if
I'm
they're,
laughing.
it's the truth though.
It
Sadly,
is.
it's not, the reason stereotypes exist is because there's some truth in them,
That's
right?
exactly it. Right.
So if we
And
have
there's
this
always a bell curve.
stereotype that there's a generation, yeah, it is. But if you have this stereotype that there's a generation out there that is weaker or softer or this or that, there's a reason for it. If they say Gen Gen X are a bunch of a-holes, yeah, it's probably true. There's a reason for it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So yeah. I mean, new entrepreneurs today have to have the chops. They
Yeah.
have to be
And
resilient. They have to be able to
yeah.
pivot. They have to be relentless. And quite frankly, if they're not disruptors, because the one thing we know for sure
Mhm.
is there's no change in the world happens unless someone disrupts.
Right.
Everything in
Exactly.
society, everything has been based on risk and disrupting the status quo.
That's right. And you need that appetite for risk. And so if you said, hey, Gen Z, you're about to start a new business, I'm going to give you $1,000 and a laptop. In order for you to succeed, I highly recommend you to do what as a first step?
First of all, I'd say take a couple $100 of and instead of starting an LLC, throw it in an fund and forget about it. Something that'll create $10, $5 a month, whatever, and let it sit there for your business. Take the balance of that because you already got the laptop for free. Find low-hanging fruit on an automation. So whatever you're going to sell, socks, weight loss, lingerie, whatever, I don't care. Find a drop ship automation, set that up on some social media and create a passive income stream. Don't even make an LLC, DBA. Then, while that's happening, once you get that established, go start a business, bootstrap it, and go start something that is a need that you can do better, that is people are asking for, and bring people who can't do what you do to the table to be part of it.
Right. Oh, bingo, bingo. I think without blowing smoke up your skirt, I think that is the best advice that I've heard regarding entrepreneurship. It's amazing, Eric. It really, really is. So, on the topic of advice, let's kind of flip it around. What is the wackiest or most counterintuitive advice that you received, but it actually freaking worked?
You know, I don't, that's another question I don't have an answer for, right? Because that stumps me. Like, what crazy advice did I ever get? And so I really had to think about that a little bit and say, okay, what's the craziest advice for me, for Eric, that I
Yeah.
ever got? And did it not work? And that's sort of the way I had to frame that question. And the craziest advice I ever got was conform. Was you have
Mm.
to do it this way because it's proven. Okay, let's try it. Oh, look, it's just more white noise. I understand the tried and true methods that do work, but they are foundational. They are foundational. Outside of that is because the minute I conformed, I started stifling who I was,
Mhm.
right? And it didn't
Oh,
work. It was a miserable failure. The minute somebody said, Eric, you shouldn't do this because they don't like it, I thought, oh, it's okay, let me try it. Well, it wasn't me. It wasn't who I was. It wasn't my brand. It just wasn't. So my attitude was like, screw it. So the wackiest advice I ever got was conformity. That was the wackiest advice I ever got. And it didn't work.
I feel like parallel lives, and that I don't believe there's anything such as a coincidence. You're meant to connect and talk to people. As
Sure.
I'm hearing this from you, I'm hearing, Loralyn, why did you listen and conform and have that really conservative and look at me in my business blazer and I'm all polished in my red lipstick and this like that. I mean, right? Like that isn't who I am. I dig in, I solve the problems, forget it. None of the fluff, none of the nonsense, just right, head down into it. And people are like, no, no, you need to soft pedal. I don't candy coat anything. So I hear you.
No.
Um, I, and around this topic, it's having the wherewithal to look around and see what's going on in the competition, right? So many of the small business owners that I talk to, they operate in a way that is completely insulated. And I'm asking, like, oh, well, I looked up, before our call to prepare, I looked up blah, 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 your competitor in this. I'm like, oh, do they compete with us? Like, they own 90% of the market share. Like, how do you not know this? And why aren't you learning from them and seeing what's working, what's not working, trying to work around that so that you can differentiate? Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Right. So, talk to me about competition and what you see, because there are a lot of events. There are a lot of folks scrambling to get into procurement and thinking, oh, getting paid by the government is a safe bet. And I'm not going to get political and do any of that, but we all know what's going on here in 2025 under the new administration. Nothing is a safe bet anymore, right? There are no sacred cows, even in government. So, that said, what did you look around and what's your approach to competition and figuring out how that can inform what you do and how you do it?
So I'm going to answer your political comment, I have to,
Okay,
because I
go
think
there.
this is really important. I just think this is
Yep.
really important. A lot of people are shaking on this. Like, oh my God, oh my God. Now, I'm not going to validate why they're doing it or what the administration is doing. But what I can say is this is if this is freaking you out as a small business, sit tight, pivot, and plan and keep going because this is not new. What they're doing is not new. It might be bigger, it might be more of a shake of the tree, but it's not new. Every time this is not, there is constant change. For example, I'll give you an example. Right now, the administration told General Services Administration to cancel a bunch of leases.
Yeah.
Um, and it's making the news. Well, let me make this really clear. About, I think it's like 2 to 18% of leases are canceled by GSA yearly. Like they get out of their real estate all the time. It's not really as crazy as as you think it is. So businesses just got to be prepared and pivot because we're going to come out the other end. Things will become this new form of doing things, but we do this all the time. Every administration, we do this again. It's just we know a little bit more about it because of the quote unquote level of transparency or bluster or PR. So we know a little bit more and it's freaking us out. So everybody dial it back, relax, stay your course. You'll get through this. You'll be fine. Now, as far as competition is concerned, we have no competitors. We don't view anybody out there in any event space as a competitor. I don't care if they're doing the same identical thing as me. They're collaborators. I want to be partners with them in some capacity. I want to invite them to be part of my event. Let's co-do an event. What do you bring to the table? What can you share? What am I willing to give up? What can you teach me? What shouldn't I do? So I mean, and I see it, believe me, I see it. I mean, in fact, some of the very agencies that we bring to the table, they have their own procurement events. Should I consider them competition? No. Bring them into the fold. I want your audience. I want the outreach. I want to get you more audience. I want to bring you new people. So I think if you get away from, because to me, the competitor mindset, while it would always, competition will always be there. It's old, antiquated bull. It's 1940s, 1950s. Oh, Joe down the streets opened up a bakery like mine. Oh my God, it's the end of the world. We got to put him out of business. Competition will always exist, but we have to think in a collaborative economy, right? We have to think of a collaborative economy. We have to think with ethical capitalism. We're not here to get one sale and ride the boat, buy a boat, right? You're here to build. And you can improve your audiences by collaborating with your competitors. Hell, if I had a bakery and the bakery opened up across the street, I certainly would go check them out and see what they're making. But would I go and try to make what they're making? No, I'd say, hey, dude, listen, this is really awesome. I'll tell you what, I'll bring, you guys don't have this. I'll give you ours, you give me theirs. Let's put it in each other's shop. Let's have parties together. Let's promote. Let's have bakeries. Let's have competitions. Let's do some fun to make our businesses grow. That's the way I would do it. And if they said no, I'd be like, well, fine, is what it is. And I move on. So I think that you have to change your mindset on competition. See them, like you said, as educators, but see them as collaborators and find a way to collaborate. Because quite frankly, we have our not-for-profit, which is business development and workforce development. And you sort of are in this with Steeros, this workforce and business development space. Do I see you as a competitor, or do I say to you, let's collaborate? We got amazing things we can do. And do we expand our audiences and build brand loyalty? That's the way I see competition.
Which is healthy, right? And that's just it. I think too many of us get wrapped around the axle and say like, oh, they're this, they're that. And then we, again, descend into sameness, the way that we started this podcast where, oh, they're doing that. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. And then you're just echoing what's going out there that may not even be working for that competitor. And so that's nonsense. I'm all about it too. What can I learn from you? We started off in the pre-recording, finding out about some of the new issues, right? Like Gmail is flagging every retailer, every vendor, and putting us into the promotion folder, right? Or the spam, right? It's either one. It's a real pain in the ass to try to overcome. So instead of Eric, you saying, oh, I'm not going to tell you, I figured it out. You're saying kindly, oh, Loralyn, you asked, let me tell you. I'll tell you how I did it. This is the kind of thing where small businesses can build healthy ecosystems because none of us does exactly the same thing, the same offer for the same audience. We have similarities, but if we've done it right, we've carved out our own niche. And we should be focusing our efforts on owning that niche, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I get it. Yeah, off my soapbox now. Okay, back to the question. So you suggested a few things as far as what folks should do or should not do in all of this. And so I spend a lot of time teaching at various county community colleges up and around New Jersey and into New York. And they are all these folks who are small business owners. And they're looking to find out, how do I write grants? How do I write sales proposals to answer government contracts, right? RFPs, RFQs, RFIs, all the alphabets, right? How do I do those? What are the skills I really need? My business is struggling. So I teach these things. But the reason why I teach them is because business schools don't have those freaking courses on their curriculum. And I go to them and go like, you have a gap in your curriculum. I'm like, really? I'm like, yeah. And they go, oh, you're right. And so what do you think is the gap in the curriculum that business schools should be teaching to raise that next gen of entrepreneurs?
Well, I think and I'm going to be harsh here, right? I
Go
think
ahead.
it should be boot camp. I think it should be 16 weeks of Marine boot camp style, and how to, they literally have to build the bike while riding it type of thing. That's the courses I think should be taught. And here's the thing, I say this because, and when you think about it, right? Here comes the iPhone. Everybody's a photographer now. Here comes Canva. Everybody's a graphic designer, right? Here's
Yes.
all this stuff. I post my pictures on social media. I'm a content creator. You know where that comes from? That comes from mommy hanging your macaroni art on the refrigerator and calling you Rembrandt and telling you could be anything you want in the world. That's very true. You can be anything, but you need to have a base and you need to have the chops, right? So I feel like what we do is we throw them to the wolves day one and say, make your business, tell us what your business is. In 1 week, have a business summary and what your business idea is. And then let's make that business happen. And I really, because this textbook stuff is foundational, it's theoretical, it's operational, right? And if people aren't learning from the jump, because that's actually how businesses get started. They get started on a jump and a risk. That's it. And none of it outside of writing a business plan, a marketing plan, and a budget, outside of that, nothing is in the textbooks. Nothing that tells people how to handle it. So I really believe that if they don't have the chops to make the sacrifice, because believe me, relationships are lost over building a business.
Oh, yes.
You know what I mean? And I'm not talking like just professional relationships. I'm talking marriages dissolve.
That's,
you know?
yeah.
If you're not prepared for what it takes, you're not going 9 to 5, you're out all the time. Your kids are going to come back to you at some point in your life and go, oh, you never spent any time with me, which is a heartbreaker. You know what I mean? You got to face that. And then you have to face all the crap that comes with the customer being always right, which isn't true. How do you do this? How do you do that? What happens when literally your kitchen is on fire? I think that college courses need to stop. You have the foundationals as part of a throwing to the wolves method. I really think so, because what is it? 26% or something like that of businesses fail in the first year.
95% of tech businesses.
It's like 40 something percent fail between 5 and 10. Yeah, well, in tech business, but I mean, in general, the overall, I can't remember what year the statistic was, but it's in that 20 some odd percent range in the first year. 20 some odd percent of businesses fail. And that's a wide range of businesses fail in the first year. That's ridiculous. That's more than 1/4 of all registered businesses are gone before the end of the first year. It's because nobody gets it.
That's just it, right? It's a combination of tenacity. It's a combination of product market fit. Did you do some market research? Did you inquire what you need to do and what your audience actually wants? Were you prepared to pivot, right? All of the things you've talked about, Eric, that's exactly it. It is really tough. People don't realize how tough it is to be an entrepreneur. And every year it seems to be getting tougher because a bigger percentage of the world is embracing entrepreneurship and not working at a job. So now you've already got global competition, but you've got it 10x'd because there are so many more people entering the space. And so you've really got to be able to figure it out and be prepared to market response, things change. I've got to pivot. I've got to pivot. If you're not doing that, you are going to go under. You really are.
Yeah,
It's
I mean, listen,
very, very tough.
we've done a couple marketing pivots already. We've shifted on
Me too.
some early ideas. We're about to pivot again on one of our brands, because we have our ProcurementCon brand, which is the event you were at, but that's the master brand is ProcurementCon. And then we have BizCon, which is a smaller regional business development brand. Then we have something we call Biz Talk, which is our talk show and our live event. But we're about to pivot those live events and make them more fun to be at as a business owner rather than just hearing somebody speak. So we're about to make that change. But you got to be able
Oh,
to do
amen to
that.
that.
So I think, and yep, gratuitous plug. I just threw it in there.
It's good, and the world needs some of that. Again, you're being a disruptor, right? You talked about
Yeah,
Howard Stern earlier in the podcast. He was a shock jock,
yeah, shock jock. That's what
right?
they were called, right? Well, I mean,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
it. I'm not doing anything different when it comes to an event. It's just how am I delivering the event? Number one, how am I programming it compared to what are my rules? Because I have rules for my event that everybody has to abide by if they want to have a seat at the table. Um, and then it's not just the event, it's what are we doing post event, right? With our membership community, our
Mhm.
no cost membership community. What are we doing with that to continue to feed and you talk going back to competition. So that's actually something when I looked at having a newsletter and then I said, this just sucks. Everybody has a newsletter.
Right.
What do I do? And so I looked at how New York Comic Con, that company, maintains its engagement with its community.
Mhm.
It's not a membership, but they treat people like members who have signed up for the newsletter as if they're in a club. And I said, that's what we have to do. So I took an idea at a Comic Con page and I said, this is what we're going to do. And it costs people nothing. But here's the thing, you got to engage with it. You got to stay engaging with us because there are other people that want this. And if you're not taking an advantage, oh, well, goodbye. And that's how, we drive that. So it's not just here's a brand that gives you an event, but what are we doing at the event? And then what are we doing after the event? And how are we continuing? And then how are we supporting? How are we putting our money where our mouth is? We don't charge
Right.
people to be on our talk show. We don't charge people for spotlights to be advertised in our email newsletter. You know what I mean? Like, what do we do? And again, I don't think I'm not being paid to be on your show, but you're supporting our brand by having me on your show. A
Mhm.
lot of us are doing it, but that
Right.
matters. That matters. So sorry, I think I derailed that that
No,
question.
no, but it's all good. And actually, as we're getting towards the end of our podcast, anything that you'd like to add before I ask you one final question? What do you want to share with our audience?
Yeah, I think the number one thing that everybody who's about to embark or who is already in business needs to either remember or to adopt is don't let fear stop you because every excuse you make, whether it's I don't have the time or it's I'm not sure about that or that's BS. That's an excuse because if you boil it down, the one thing you're afraid of is loss. It's the risk. What do I lose or what's going to happen to XYZ if I do or do not do this? Stop being afraid. Stop. If you got into business, if you pulled the trigger, let's say you're day one, you just pulled the trigger. Today, you pulled the trigger. You already took a risk. What do you got to lose? Keep that going. Take the risk because if there's one thing, every step you make in business is a risk, provided you're even if you're doing status quo stuff, like if you suddenly decided for the first time you're going to pay $100 for a boost on social media, you're taking a risk,
Right.
even though that's pretty standard practice, right? Standard operating procedure now. So take that attitude and continue to not be afraid. Do not be afraid. I mean, don't go crazy like me and be like, hey, I want to push you out of an airplane for an ad and then push somebody out of an airplane. But, calculate your risks, know what they are. Don't be afraid to take them. Understand if you can handle whatever comes next, good or bad, because, we use the word consequences often in the negative, but you could have great consequences. You could suddenly be that guy or gal who now doesn't have capacity to meet demand.
Right.
You better be prepared, right? So I'd say eliminate fear as much as use it to guide you, but eliminate it in your excuse making as to why you're not doing something.
Spot on. One of my favorite now deceased coaches, Susan Joffers, right? Feel the fear and do it anyway. Right.
Yeah.
Fantastic advice. Last question, Eric. If we looked into your closet and there was a pair of shoes or boots, some footwear that gave us a sense of your personality and style, describe what we're looking at and how it's aligned with who you are and personifies the Eric Vincent ProcurementCon Black Ink Creative Partners brand.
Sure, that's easy. I have a pair of Skechers. They kind of look like work boots or work shoes, but they're really comfortable. They are polished to a high shine. They have that thick, sole. So I'd like to say, what it is I wear my rebellion on my outside, along with my personality. So, that's who I am, is to be rebellious. So I can walk into, a ballroom with a pair of shiny kickers and cuss with class. That's who I am.
Eric, where can folks find you?
Sure. So our big thing is you can visit us at blackinkcreativepartners.com, but we really want you to go over to procurementcon.com. That's the word procurement, CON is in Nancy.com, and visit us there because that's where we're doing our biggest, mission-based work. And again, just so we're clear, we're a for-profit business. We're here to make money, but we're not going to do it by robbing people and not giving them real value. So head on over to ProcurementCon. You can see all the events we have happening in New Jersey this year. We're breaking into Connecticut, New York, and Philadelphia the end of this year.
Congrats.
With our site set, in 2026 to start heading out into other areas and expanding our relationships. And to keep up on what we're doing, you could join us at procurementcon.com in our small business community. It's a no-cost membership. It's called the Deets. It's real simple. We take your name and your email address, nothing else. We'll send you a survey later to find out what industry you're in. And with that, you'll get resources every month. You'll get news. You'll get updates. You'll get membership access to our resource page. And what's really cool is that one of the things we do with our resource page is that that's content from all our events and from people that send us stuff, right? Or that we find, and we put the content there. It doesn't matter if you attended an event or not. You get access to that event content, ultimately those presentations. So, we really try to bring that to you guys. So yeah, procurementcon.com. Sign up, check us out. You can follow us on YouTube as well, where we have our talk show, and that's youtube.com, and it's at ProcurementCon brand. And then everywhere on social media is ProcurementCon.
Perfect. And we'll have, of course, all the deets, as you say, listed when we go live and publish this. So with that, thank you very much, Eric Vincent, founder of ProcurementCon and Black Ink Creative Partners. Take a look, check him out. I know I'll be signing up for that small business ecosystem because Eric really does put his money on where his mouth is, right? And you've heard his mouth. So there's some good stuff in there. Take it out. Make sure you join. All right. Thank you, Eric.
Thanks, Dr. Mears.
And how about that fantastic intro by Touch Circle?